Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Argostars Yugioh deck profile for January 2025. This is one of the new decks out of the Supreme Darkness booster set. This deck focuses on utilizing many different continuous traps that can summon out as monsters onto the field to make use of that playstyle, along with banishing with a good amount of our different engine cards to be able to make use of more setup for these different continuous traps. It's definitely a fun deck that focuses on utilizing a wide variety of continuous traps that can be summoned out onto the field, and this deck will be getting more support in the future, so we definitely have that to look forward to as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Argostars, there's actually one main deck monster currently, and that is Argostars Glorious Audra. During your opponent's turn, if you control a continuous trap card, quick effect, you can banish this card from your hand, make the attack of one monster on the field 0 until the end of this turn. If this card is normal summoned, the turn your opponent cannot activate card or effects in response to the activation of your continuous traps or their effects, and you can banish this card you control to place up to 2 Argostar continuous traps with different names from your hand and or deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. You can only use this effect of Glorious Audra once per turn, but it's that setup and also that response that you can use with this card basically being a quick play effect to respond to your opponent's own cards and be able to make use of those cards, and also the setup for your other different Argostar continuous traps, which we run a good number of in the deck as well, since the main focus in the deck are the continuous traps and not the actual monsters in the deck. For the rest of the main deck monsters, we run a hand trap lineup in the form of 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just because we have some other cards in the deck that can shut down the graveyard setup. Including that is our Dimension Shifter, part of it as well. We run this card because it doesn't really affect the Argostar setup with the continuous traps and Glorious Audra herself. And then the last ones being the Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Same premise as Ash Blossom. If we are under Shifter, we can still use Moonlit Chill and Ash Blossom with their discard option, not having to go to the graveyard. For the spells, we run 3 of the field spell for the Argostars, being Argostars Home Stadium. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points, add Argostar cards from your graveyard or banishment to your hand. Each time a continuous trap in your spell and trap card zone is special summon to your field, inflict 1,000 with that card, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. And once per chain, if a continuous trap activates its effect in your monster zone while you have banished Argostar monster, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn. So the negate effect is big also for the setup of being able to add 1 Argostar card from your graveyard or banished to your hand. Having those setup cards and recycle power along with the burn damage and effect negation just makes it a continuous, field spell that can always be made use of to also go up against your opponent, either shutting down their cards, burning them for damage, or adding back your own cards. We also run 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure because any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead. This will really not affect our deck at all for our main deck monsters since we run continuous traps. They are still counted as traps, so we have them able to go to the graveyard. And this can really just hurt our opponent in any plays that they may try to do with their own graveyard. And once again, our main go-to monster, Glorious Audra, is not really affected by this card either. Running 2 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Just for more draw power, our main focus is, once again, the continuous traps in the deck. So being able to banish cards from our extra deck, with only 1 extra deck monster being the main focus that we want to work on with this deck. So as long as that card doesn't get hit, we're fine to use this card as we will. And then lastly, the 1 copy of Call by the Grave for the rest of the spells, just to stop any hand traps that our opponent may try to use against us also. For the traps, we're running 3 copies of Argostars Lightning Taiju. With this card, well, it's face up in the spell and trap card zone. Warrior monsters you control gain 500 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card to special summon this card as an effect monster, Warrior, level 4, with 2,000 attack and defense. With the following effects, it's also still a trap. When you can add 1 Argostars card from your deck to your hand, except for Lightning Taiju. And once per turn, quick effect, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap card zone. So this is kind of the Argostars' power to reset themselves up as traps, summon them out as monsters, making use of their own card effects and their additional setup that you can do with cards like Glorious Audra to be able to be placed face up in the spell and trap card zone for you to be able to use afterwards. We're also running 3 copies of Argostars Slayer Ezio. Well, this card is face up in the spell and trap card zone. Warrior monster you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. So then you have the added warrior monster gain 500 attack. The card effects for your Ateo. And the next one, our Swift Capon, is one that they protect from battle. So if you have them all, very difficult to get rid of these traps, giving you another trap with lower attack and defense, but with a better option to be special summon as an effect monster onto the field. And then also with this card, if you have banished Argostar cards, you can return one card on the field to the hand, giving you back some more recycle power with this card, and also to place it back into the spell and trap card zone again also. And then lastly, for the Argostars traps, 2 copies of Argostars Swift Capane, having it be a special summon option. And while it's face up in the spell and trap card zone, warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. And also, with this card being able to summon it as an 1800 attack, 1800 defense monster with the following effect. And also, if you have a banished Argostar monster, gain 500 life points. Once per turn, you can place this card face up in the spell and trap card zone. Once again, the setup, the battle protection, and then the gain life point option with this other continuous trap. We only run the 2, though, of this. It's not as necessary, I would say, as the other Argostars, being that they're all level 4 monsters. You can also go for rank 4 Xyz plays with them, but also just being able to set them up with Glorious Aedra makes them more or less just an easy search to make use of also. We're also running the 3 copies of Angel Statue Azure for another continuous trap option, another level 4 monster, and when your opponent would special summon a monster while this card's in the monster zone, you can send to the graveyard 1 continuous trap in your monster zone that was special summoned from the spell and trap card zone to negate his summon and destroy that monster, which we run plenty of in the deck as well in the form of other Argostar monsters. So definitely a 3 of just to have a monster effect negate on top of our other traps. And then we also run the 1 copy of Apophis the Swamp Deity to special summon this out as a level 6 monster, but then having this card be able to negate the effects of face-up card your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps, moving more or less a trap negation card on top of it. The 2 copies of Abyss Stingray. Now, it's either this or the other trap option for the destruction play, but this one is another protect by battle option with a 1900 attack, level 5 monster. So if you want to, you could run the other continuous trap option that was released in the same pack as this card. We also run the 3 copies of Silhouette Trick, just for another monster effect option to summon out onto the field. And then if it's special summon, you can target face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of illusion monsters you control and negate their effects, which this card does count as the illusion monster to summon out as well. And if this card battles a monster, neither player can be destroyed by that battle, as more or less another, protection option. With the rest of the traps just being 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, along with the Ash Blossom and the Ghost Mortar Moonlit Chills and the Dimension Shifter, really not affected by any of the banished plays. So just another good trap, and the only non-continuous trap that we are running in the deck as an added lineup. For the extra deck, I have the 1 copy of Silhouette Rabbit. If you wanted to run more copies of this card, you could just drop down some of your other Link monsters that we run in the extra deck as well. But for the other Link monsters, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, the 1 Moon the Closed Heaven, and the 1 SP Little Knight, just all other generic, Link 2s that you can replace any additional ones for more copies of Silhouette Rabbit if you wish in the deck also. The 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn and the 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, with our Xyz monsters being the 1 copy of Abyss Dweller, the 1 Dugaris, the 1 Castel, Gaga Cowboy, Tornado Dragon, and then the bigger Xyz monsters being the 1 Zeus and the 1 Sky Crisis. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, as I mentioned before, you have the setup for this deck all in the form of your Glorious Aedra. With this card, during your opponent's turn, if you control Continuous Trap, being able to banish this card from your hand, make the attackable monster on field 0, so then you have this added option. But the main play also of this card is just when you normal summon out this card as well, being able to use this card for your banish to place up to 2 of your cards. So with this card, it makes it so your opponent can activate anything in response to your normal traps, so then you go for the banish, setting the 2 needed ones, which you can grab your Slayer Ateo, and then your Lightning to Dew face up in the spell and trap card zone as well, to then be able to use the effect of this card. You can discard 1 card to special summon this card, and then special summon out your monster to the field, and then use the added effect of that monster when your opponent activates a card effect, being able to special summon out your Slayer Ateo in the same way as well. So you have the discard to summon Lightning to Dew, and then the Ateo to the field as well, using those monsters as more or less a setup for those monsters, which can easily be retreated back to the spell and trap card zone for extra protection as well from that spot also. You have more of that setup and protection in the form of your field spell, which being able to pay 1,000 life points to add an Argostar card from your graveyard banish. So this allows you to add the Glorious Aedra back to your hand. You have potentially 2 monsters you can use for the overlay, but setting up and banishing Glorious Aedra is one you want to continue to use with this play to then go for the added placement of your other monsters to be able to use the following turns as well. And then just being able to continuously set up those Argostar traps face up in your spell trap card zone as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Once again, this is an interesting new deck. We'll see more support, but it's mostly just a trap monster setup. So depending on the trap monsters you may want to use, you could find some variety for the setup you may want to do in the deck as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.